We are live here with the first episode of In Space with Chris Connor. Um, and I didn't think I'd be doing this. So this is fun, man. I I thank people for that push me in the direction to want to kind of step out here and produce my own content outside of what I'm doing on Twitter and guest appearances. And I can be honest by saying that I don't think I would be here doing this if it's not for the people that I have up here joining me today. So, um, guys, I want to tell you early. Um, this show is going to have a lot of randomness. It's going to be ups and downs. I have no idea from top to bottom where I'm going to end each show, but the ultimate goal is going to be to um, learn about people's journeys that I respect, that I see, that help, that one way or another in sports media or media, period, have walked a trail that's very important to the reason in the city that's in my heart, and help make me who I am. So, without further ado, we have my OG, who I'm always recording with at some point, and David Grubb, Hard in the Paint. Um, MLBro.com. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, Sports Illustrated. Um,
Tulane
it all,
basketball.
man.
Do a little bit.
This goes on and on, right?
I do a little bit. Work hard. That you got to. Like, there's nobody. There's nobody who really. If you're gonna try to make it in this, if you only have one slash behind your name, then you must be somewhere very comfortable. And even the folks in the very comfortable got more than one slash at this point.
So, 100%. And speaking of working hard, we have the hardest working man doing anything Saints related. Another one of my dogs I've known. I mean, 4 or 5 years, maybe since my return to Twitter. I've watched Ross grow and take over things. I mean, he's the first. I mean, 10,000 plus followers now. On, still on the Locked On Network. US Today, the Saints Wire. Ross, what's up, man?
Man, I'm glad to be here with you, homie. Thank you so much for having us come through, man. You were the first guest I ever had on Locked On Saints, actually.
That's crazy.
You ain't been back, and that's my fault. I gotta fix that.
It's definitely your fault.
That's my fault. That's my bad. But we're gonna
fix that.
I've never been
on Locked On Saints.
Yes, you have. We did a whole dome patrol after stuff went down, and you came through, right? We did a dome patrol episode.
You're right. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. I gotta fix it, but I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Now, missing from action, who is dealing with some family matters. We hope everything is okay in the Hudak household. Maddie Hudak was supposed to be with us. But shout out to Maddie. We'll have her back at some point. But this was put together because, and I want Grubb to go into it a little bit. Grubb, you have on your show Hard in the Paint, award-winning show Hard in the Paint.
Both of look, Ross got awards too for his game. Come on.
Well, listen, I just see the trophies. I'm trying to get to where y'all at. Those that can't see, Ross got like 5 trophies behind his head right now. Just all.
Y'all just wait till I put my degrees on the wall.
But Grubb, you guys, Maddie, I think it started with you and Ross, but you, Ross, and now Maddie, you guys have, I believe, a weekly segment by the name of the Dome Patrol, which I do want to know. It's only 3. It was supposed to be 4 of us today. I was going to ask who's Vaughn, who's Sam, who's Pat. At some point, you're gonna have to do it so when Maddie hears this, she can know if she's Vaughn Johnson or not. But
Maddie, I'll say this. Maddie makes the most sense as Vaughn.
Yeah.
Maddie makes the most sense as Vaughn. Because look, I'll say it like I'm gonna do it like this. First, Ross is the Sam Mills of the group. Ross is Sam Mills. Ross diagnoses things. Ross communicates well with everybody. There is not a person that you will find that has a negative opinion of Ross. He is a leader. You know what I'm saying? Like Ross inspires others people to do better. and he doesn't have to do that in any other way than by being Ross. Ross is our Sam Mills. He's the heart and he's the soul of this whole thing. And I would say I because look, everybody knows that no one loves Ricky Jackson more than I do.
Yep.
No one. Every time I see Ricky, every time I'm around Ricky, if you give me a chance to mention Ricky, I will talk about Ricky Jackson.
Yeah.
So I believe, because the thing I loved about Ricky was that, yeah, he's the Saints all-time leading sack leader, but he was also at one time the all-time fumble recoveries leader in the NFL. He was a guy that could play the run, he could play the pass. I would say he was the most complete, because if you asked him to cover, he could cover. If you asked him to pass rush, he could do it. He was strong at the line. He could handle anything. And Ricky was also just, his voice was bigger than everybody else's in that locker room. If Ricky said it, that's what was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Just by his sheer presence. And I try to feel like that's when I speak to my audience, I want to have it that kind of resonance. And I'll say that Maddie is Vaughn, because Maddie is relentless. Maddie is relentless. And you can underestimate Maddie because she didn't come in with the same accolades that the other ones did in that group. You know, she didn't have the name recognition. She comes from, look, and Maddie's just going to come at you and she's going to knock the shit out of you. And if you come in, like, I love her spirit, her energy. And from day one, that's when, like, the first time I heard Maddie, like I said, I didn't know her. The first time I heard her, I was like, I got to pay attention.
So
you coming through as Pat now, right, Chris?
I guess I have
young buck.
You know, I have a random it's not even a story, but I remember growing up in New Orleans. This is when, like, Pat was like, I don't know what he's doing now, but I know he was running for some type of local office in New Orleans. And I remember seeing him around the city all the time. My mother used to say terrible things about him. Like, we would see him in the street and she would not, like, apparently they knew each other. I don't think it's my business how they knew each other, but she did. She was not a fan of Pat Swilling. And now I feel like she's going to be pissed off when she hears this. That's okay. But no, man. Nah, that's dope. I'll be Pat. So one of the things I've realized about this process, at least in my journey of growing and, you know, learning about what media is, in a bunch of different pockets, is that you eventually, if you do it long enough, you inspire people. Whether you inspire them in the smallest amount, or, you know, they stand on top of a ledge and, you know, and say, this dude is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing here today, or this woman is why I'm doing it. And you know, I feel like the best, you know, one of the best things that you can offer when you're good at something, or as you're improving, as you're gaining the following, is to give back, is help the next person, pull the next person up, get the next person their chance to shine. And y'all have been really good at that. So what, you know, I hope that shows like this, and I'm starting to realize why I want to do this, because I want people to have examples who think like people just became who they are just right away. You know, they think y'all just started winning awards right away. They think that people get up to 6, 7, 8,000 followers, 100,000 followers overnight. There's a process. It takes time, right, to do it. And, you know, I mean, hopefully, you know, we can, you know, inspire more people to continue to do it and think like, yo, man, you got to start somewhere. So, I want to dive a little bit further into like who y'all are, man. You know, and how it started. I'm gonna ask y'all, you know, some questions, and we gonna see how this goes. So, the first thing is, and I'm gonna start with Ross. Ross, how long have you been in this space, in the media space? And I want you to tell me, when you first started, who inspired you, and what did you think you wanted to do?
Well, who inspired me started way, way back. And you know, we just celebrated a little bit of an anniversary around him. But Stuart Scott was like the first person that I saw on television that made me go, because I was playing sports. I was playing when I was younger, but seeing Stuart Scott on television, I was like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, like I want to do that. I want to talk about it at least. Like, I want to be around it. I want to be a part of it. And so he was really the first piece that I really saw and said, okay, there's a space for somebody that looks like me in that venue, and I can step into that role should I choose. And then I went the entirely opposite direction and worked in theater for over a decade, doing like Broadway, off Broadway, national tours, all this other crap, regional, everything. And I went entirely to the wrong side, or not the wrong side, but I went the polar opposite. I mean, the only thing I could have been doing maybe that was like more, outside of what I was doing might have been, I don't know, maybe that's it. Maybe that's like the furthest I could have gone. Maybe painting. I don't know. But as I went through all of that and I was trying to find ways to like blend those two things together. So I really stepped into the sports media space in 2017, right around the draft. And I think the thing that ended up giving me the opportunity to do that was Tyler McClatchy. I always like to shout him out, at T-Clatch. He jumped onto like the Saints subreddit one day and was like, hey, I want to start a website or a blog writing about the New Orleans Saints. Is there anybody who would like to contribute? And I had taken some journalism classes when I was in college and everything. I had been doing some writing. I've been doing some critical theory writing. I had been doing some technical theater review writing, things like that. And so I had a couple of pieces published and stuff. I did some explorations around like anti-blackness and regional theater and all these other pieces. And so I had some writing experience, and I knew that it was something I had always wanted to do. And I wanted to find my way back to sports one way or another, whether it was like a production assistant that was just making coffee on an ESPN set or something like that. Like that's where I wanted to get, like whatever it was, I was willing to do it. And so when that popped up, I was like, yeah, all right, why not? And then I started writing, and like people cared about what I was writing. And then people like DG reached out and was like, hey, can you come on my show and stuff like that? And all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, so I have a voice that people actually resonate with. Like people are finding interest in it. And so I started then going into podcasting while I was on that website, which at the time was All Saints Considered. It changed over time to Section 600 because NPR got a little mad at us for calling it All Saints Considered. They like that name. And so we ended up rebranding to that and everything. And then while I was doing all that, we were doing some podcasts. And then David Locke reached out to me, who's the founder and owner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and said, hey, I've heard some of your stuff. We do, daily shows every Monday through Friday, 30 minutes a day. Would you like to come and take over the Saints show? And he was like, we have somebody else, but if you're interested, like we would like to put you in the running and like put you in for consideration. So, it was pretty like, it was like, yeah, why not? Right. Like if it's for consideration, let me go for it. And then if I can get it, then yeah, I'll do it to it. And it all worked out. And then that happened in like the summer of 2018. That was right after that draft. So right after Marcus Davenport was selected by the New Orleans Saints. So it took about a year until I really got into the podcasting space. And then I've been there ever since. I've moved up in the company. I'm a full-time employee of the company, but like DG said, like you still have slashes, right? So I'm still also doing all of the writing, and I've moved over to Canal Street Chronicles, where, SB Nation, where the three of us have already connected before, and then jumped over to USA Today, and then doing some stuff with Crescent City Sports. And then now I've got, and I'm of course got Locked On Saints going. And so that was the trajectory, man. And it really just came down to being willing to say, this is something that I want to do. And then just saying, forget the safety net. I'm not going to wait for anything. I'm going to just leap. I'm going to just do it. And then now this is what I do. Like I left theater. I'm completely out of it and everything. I was at the top of that field in a very competitive market in the middle of Los Angeles. And I said, nah, I'm cool. I want to talk to my people instead. And everything. And so this gave me an opportunity to be able to come back and contribute. I'm from the city of New Orleans, born and raised here. And so it gave me an opportunity to be able to come back and be able to speak and have an impact in a community that I care so much about and that I missed for a really, really long time. So I'm grateful for that, the way that all unfolded.
So Grubb, similar to Ross, I want to know who, if it's multiple people. I mean, I'm sure it's not just one person, but I want to know who inspired you, and I want to know like what's your favorite part. Like when you decide, all right, I'm gonna record today, or I'm getting on someone's show, or I'm whatever. What's your favorite part about it? About every episode?
Let's start. The inspiration for me was Ralph Wiley. The late great Ralph Wiley. If you haven't read him, man, get a book, get a collection of his essays, whatever. He had probably the most unique voice for a Black sports writer I had ever read before. And it was his voice. It was purely, he did not compromise it. He did not water it down. And like I said, it wasn't unapologetically black. It was unapologetically Ralph Wiley. And the observations were honest. They were comedic. They were deep. And I wanted to be all of those things. I felt like, because I love sports, I hated having very superficial conversations about sports. No matter the thing, I didn't want to just talk about what happened. How and why were always important to me. What people were thinking, what were feeling in those moments. The emotion of it for me was not as much as about the outcome. It was the process. That's why I love the games, is the process. How you get to that last shot, in the fourth quarter. How do you get to that make or miss field goal that's going to win the conference championship? Those types of things were what inspired me. And Ralph Wiley did those things, and he could do the serious, he could do the straight, and he could do the observational equally as well. So I wanted to be that. And then when I met Ro Brown, and I met Ro as a high schooler the first time, because his daughter went to school with my sister. But when I worked under him, as an intern, I was at WDSU in a Stanford Rhett, and Ro was the sports director. And there's also at the time a black female sports producer, Stephanie Snowden. So this was like the blackest sports room I had ever been in my life. And it was the only one in New Orleans that had 3 black people in it. And Stan taught me a lot. And Rose certainly taught me a lot. But I thought I was going to be in television. I went to college. I thought I was going to be in television. And then when I realized, when I got into TV news, that sports is the worst possible department to be in local TV news, because they hate you. They don't think you bring any money in. They think that the national stuff is better. So what do they need you for, really? Like, if you're going to kill it locally, you got to figure out, you got to have a good news director, because wherever they cut time, it's usually out of sports. When weather goes long, we're taking 20 seconds for sports. If somebody else hops in, we're taking 15 seconds for sports. And I hated that, because I never felt like I could have any depth of anything. Like, I was just telling you what happened. And that just wasn't working for me. And so I got out of business for a good while, and I was giving my voice to other people a lot of different ways, politics and some other things. And all those areas inspired me more than anything, was to say, find where your voice is true. And it took until, honestly, I was at Southern University of New Orleans. I was the communications director and the SID at the same time. And I started taking the SID job really seriously. Like, I cared about the stories that I was writing for those young men and women. And I wanted to tell their stories in an accurate way. Especially because the HBCU athletic experience is so different than the major college athletic experience. And I felt like it needed to be told how hard some of these folks were working just to have an opportunity to play, just to play. And they didn't have an expectation that they were going to make it to the pros after this. They just want to play for 2 or 3 more years. And so those were great stories for me. And then finally in like 2016, I really started to make a push. Ro put me on a BOK. And more people started hearing about me and giving me opportunities. I started filling in a lot for other people. And Dave DeCorbier, man, gave me my shot. He said, look, come in and do, you're my Jay Leno. He let me be his Jay Leno for D Squared. And then when the first opportunity arose, he said, do you want a spot? And I had to bust my ass for that spot and earn the money to cover the advertising. But I was the first, and I mean, I don't say this to pat myself on the back, but just to tell you how long it took. It was the first black person on an all sports or major FM station to have a daily sports show.
Yep. And
people will try to change my story and make it seem like what happened there was a failure. It was not a failure. The COVID happened and the station shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fail there. That show had a reputation and it was growing, and I was getting national figures. And the reason Ross and I found each other in that, like I said, I was looking for people who shared that same mindset. And I felt like he did. Before I spoke to him, my gut said, this guy's similar in me to mindset. Not the way we execute, because we are very different in that regard. Mm-hmm. but in mindset. And the first time we talked, honestly, Ross and I could have talked for 5-6 straight hours.
Oh, easy. Easily.
By the third conversation, this was my brother. By the third time we had done a Dome Patrol, before it was even a podcast,
right?
Just the Wednesday segment we were doing on Hard to Paint on the radio. And this was 20 minutes. 20 minutes a week. By the third time, this is my brother. When Hard to Paint becomes a podcast, that dude, like, that was the first element, because I said I'm gonna do this 5 days a week at first, which was just a monster, to the way I was doing it in long form. But we knew Wednesdays where we were going to keep the Dome Patrol going, and it has been a place, a refuge at times for, I think, for both of us. And there's nothing that I can say as far as an enduring segment that I think, outside of me and Dino in the basketball realm, like, Ross is my brother. I mean, like, I will fight for this dude, and at the same time, you know, like, we ain't scared to sit there and like, we've been on the verge of tears on that during those episodes at times.
We've had some real talks.
And I love that man, you know, and I tell him to his face, and I tell him, you know, over the phone, whatever. I love him, and I appreciate him in this business, because I know he's honest with me, I'm honest with him, and we support each other unconditionally in what we do.
I think, and it's one of the things that makes this connection, you guys' connection, very important, that sometimes you trying to figure out where you fit in, and you're trying to figure out if you belong. Like, are you even worth sitting at some of these tables, right? And it may be inconsistent feeling. Some days you may be like, oh no, I'm worth it. And the other day you might, am I it? Like, I remember I went to and this might have been my first time actually meeting you, Grubb. This was Zion's media day, or this might have been my first time meeting you in person.
Right.
This was Zion.
We had done a couple of shows, but we hadn't met.
Yeah. So this was after the Pelicans had made the AD trade. This was Zion's first year. Now, I had never been to a media day, so I had no idea like what it looked like, right? And then on top of that, outside of you not knowing that, I had no idea that, oh shit, it's Zion's, like, it's so much of this is going to be about Zion. It's going to be packed with people. And I remember sitting there, and one thing about Grubb sat up front. Like, he had a chair. I was in the back. Everybody was like, and I forgot who I was sitting next to, and they were like, nah, everybody know Grubb. Grubb sat up there. Grubb asked his questions. He was quick. He was in. Then he was out. And I'm sitting here, no disrespect to Etwan Moore and Kyrich Williams. I'm like, is it over now? Am I stuck here? I remember like he asked the starters and a couple of people that he wanted to ask. Like, all right, I'm out. And I was like, what the hell is this? What, like? So I forgot who was there with me. I'm like, I guess I got to figure this shit out. So I'm like, all right, let me start asking a few questions. Let me see how to not piss these people off, but still ask good basketball questions. But in my head, I'm like, OG, I needed you here. You were supposed to do nothing. Like, damn, get it out. All right, man. But I was like, shit. But I never forget that though, because that left an impression on me. It was a lot of people in there, a lot of notable names, some national figures. But the person to me that asked the most basketball centric question is the person that wasn't afraid of just having a, it felt like you commanded a level of respect and a presence that I hadn't really seen by people that looked like me in those kind of rooms. I hadn't seen it. So that was, that story. I've never shared that with you, but I guess my point is it's very important, because you walk into a lot of these rooms and ain't many people that look like you. That's the truth. So for y'all to share that, that connection, it goes a long way, because similar to what how I mentioned about you want to pull the person up that's up next, or help someone else up. I'm humble enough to feel like the person I pulled up may surpass me one day, and I may be leaning on him or her, So yeah, man, I really appreciate that. Grubb, or I guess so when you started, like, because I think for me, when I was young, I'm like, man, I'm gonna be on ESPN. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and like, what what was versus like what you're doing now and where and where you're trying to go. Like, what did your dreams in the beginning when this first started? When you first
Yeah,
started the microphone?
it's everybody wanted to be on ESPN because
Yeah.
you wanted it was like because when we, especially for like me and Ross, when we came in, that's when ESPN was really cool. That's when they had the This Is
Yes.
Sports Center era.
Yeah.
So you had Craig Kilborn and you had Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, and it was the peak of it was cool to be on ESPN.
Yep.
Because there were other stations. You had Fox Sports at that point, and you had CNNSI was a station too. It wasn't just a website.
Mhm.
So you had these three areas, but everybody wanted to get to ESPN. TNT, of course, had its own sports thing, but outside of Inside the NBA, there was nothing on TNT you wanted to be on, and you knew you weren't Charles Barkley, and you knew you weren't Kenny Smith, so I wasn't gonna replace either one of them.
Yeah, you only had the former player route, right?
So that wasn't gonna happen. So I wanted to be on ESPN, but what I found is I'm conversational, and television wasn't the spot for me to do that. So yeah, my dream was that, but I found that radio and podcasting allowed me to learn about my subjects and to have relationships. And that, I guess I didn't answer that the first time, but when you asked me what the best thing for me is, the relationships, good and bad, because I've had, you build a relationship with your audience, you build a relationship with the people you converse with in those podcasts. And I think that's why some of my guests are so loyal and who will come back over and over again, or tell me that if I ever need to call them, that they'll be there. Not because, I don't think I'm, some special, but what I am is genuine, and I'm that with them, and I'm prepared with them, and they I think they respect that. And a lot of the people that I have been guests continuously, we end up having offline relationships and just looking out, and checking in on each other with that. And I'm proud of that. I love that part of it.
Ross, I mean, it feels like you've been doing a part of the Locked On Network forever, and I don't. I feel like, and I'd have to go in my DMs and check, but I feel like there was a period of time where they was trying to give anybody who had an instant talent, like, just take it and do it because it was a responsibility, and you turned it into, like, no, this is actually going to be good, and I'm going to be here, and it's going to be consistent, and it's not just going to be something, oh, I'm bored, I guess I'll, oh, okay, I got an hour. You just, it seemed like there was a plan about it, and I'm sure you were finding your way, along the way. Um, what is something that, like, what's a misconception about recording as often as you do? In times where people just don't want to, like, what, give me a misconception, because after a while you make it look easy, right? But give me a misconception of recording as often as you do, as consistently as you do, even in dead times when there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I think that, like, the biggest misconception is that it gets arduous, and to me it doesn't, right? Like, and I have the advantage of only doing 30 minutes or less, right? And some of that's ads and things like that too, so that ends up helping to populate a little bit. But the thing that I love about it so much is that it's not arduous to me, and when it is, it's worth it. What y'all were referencing earlier, or kind of what you were referencing earlier, felt like actually something I experienced earlier today, which is a little bit of like imposter syndrome, right? Like I'm getting ready to walk into Saints training camp in a couple of weeks and everything, and there's still a part of me sometimes that feels like, do I deserve to do that? The answer is yes, but there are times that you feel like, is that really like me? Like the kid that, like, say again?
Why is that?
I think that just some of it is like, I'm the only one that knows where I came from. You know what I mean? I'm the only one that knows every detail about where I've been and where I came from. And so I'm the only one that knows that was homeless pre, during, and post Katrina. I'm the only one that knows that I graduated from high school barely knowing how to read and didn't actually finish learning how to read and write as an adult until I was in graduate school. Like, there are just things about my life, details about my life that, like, I know that not everybody knows upon meeting me, and then they'll make a different assumption based upon, my ability to be able to blend, right? And so that imposter syndrome just comes from the insecurities of having an understanding of what my past actually is and the road that it took to get here. And there are some days that I'm filled with pride because of that. And there are other days that I'm filled with complete and utter fear because of it, and complete and utter, like, I guess, insecurity because of it. But you have to find a way to channel it, right? And so that's why I'm grateful for the opportunity that I got with Locked On, because it allowed me to do what I do every single day, rep after rep after rep after rep. I didn't tweet about it, but I surpassed 1,000 episodes like 4 or 5 weeks ago and everything. Like, I have had reps doing this show, and I think that helps with the confidence, because even when I am at my worst, like today, I was not well before doing the show. I was not well after doing the show, in terms of, like, I was well, right? Like, I'm cool. But, like, I was not feeling very confident about what I was about to do, but I still did a good show, and I was able to get out there because I have the reps. And so the format, I think, is something that I really love about what has helped me, or sorry, the format is something that has really helped me with all that. So I think that the big piece for me is that, like, the thing biggest misconception is that it gets arduous, or it gets boring, or it gets hard to fill time, when really the format, the rhythm, the cadence is more comforting than anything else, because I can find comfort and confidence in my fundamentals, because there are fundamentals in what, the style of show that I do. And so those are the things, that's the thing that I think is kind of the biggest misconception. I don't really struggle for content, especially with this damn team. Like, there's always something to talk about, even when there isn't something to talk about. And, Grubb mentioned something earlier that I absolutely love, that, like, I don't use my show to tell you what happened. I use my show to tell you how it happened and why it's important, why you should give a shit that it did happen. And so for me, like, that's the part that makes it easier, because I can take one play and break it down for 5 episodes and tell you, and focus in on different perspectives and look at it from different points of view, why it worked, why it didn't work, will it work again, how it needs to improve in order to work again, would it work against this defense versus that defense. Like, there are just things that I'm able to do in terms of, like, building out the topic development that makes it easy to program throughout the offseason. Although there are days that it's harder than others and stuff like that. But I think that's probably the biggest misconception. And the reps and the experience definitely helps with it. But, like, anything that feels arduous is 100% worth it, because I get to give something unique to the people that support and that have helped to change my life. And I get the opportunity to be able to do something that gives back to the community that I care so much about, and be able to work with guys like you that I love dearly, and get the opportunity to be able to collaborate with throughout all this. It's like Grubb just said, right? It's about the relationships that you build, and this has opened the doorway to a lot of relationships, some of which are invaluable.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I there was so much that you just explained that I would have had no idea, right? I like that's what's and Grubb, that this is what a lot of what Ross said is going to lead to my next question to you, because, bro, like, fear. I go into, and I haven't been doing this as long as you guys have. I go into even this show. I've had so much anxiety coming into this damn show. What am I gonna ask this? How long is it gonna be? Can I be good with time? Is it gonna be receptive? I've been thinking this whole time while I've been doing this show, how many people gonna listen to it? The fear is inexplainable, and I think some people, because a person looks good in a chair, or they look confident, they're giving you confident points, or they're having a good day. People think that, oh well, that person doesn't have any type of insecurities, or any kind of fear when doing these things, outside of the fact that, hey, you don't have many setups like this where you could just have an open conversation about it. Grubb, can you dive deeper into a lot about what Ross says when it comes to just I mean, the fear the daily fears, the things that are around just making the content general, the battles you have within the person that's looking, that you're staring in the mirror.
I think for me, the thing that I fear is having the voice taken away. And so that was always the concern for me, is that somebody had the power to take it away.
Yeah.
And that's the freedom for me in Hard to Pain, is that it's the one place that I get to say it exactly how I feel. And I get to ask the questions exactly as I want to ask them. Even when I have to do it for radio, you still have to temper it. You still have to, there are people that you have to consider there, all these folks that you have to, your bosses and those folks. So that would, every day I would hope that I could stay within the lines when I'm on the radio. It's like, stay within the lines. You can get close to them. You might even feel the warmth from the, that third rail, but don't touch it. Don't touch it. And that's a little bit harder. And sometimes you are to conform in that, but yeah, you feel like there's still locker rooms when you walk in and you feel like an imposter and you feel like you don't belong there. And it's, and just like you said, it's because of the challenges that you go through internally, but also you feel that weight of being like, when you are in the space and you're the only one. And you're like, man, am I really supposed to be the only one in here? And if I mess this up, if I get my shot and I blow it, I start thinking about the impact that it's going to have on somebody else. And what that means. At the end of the first episode of Hard to Paint on radio, the first one, I cried on air at the end of it. Because that's like when, Jay-Z talks about Reasonable Doubt, and he says, that's my whole life put into that album.
Yeah.
That one episode, that first episode, was everything that everyone had ever believed for me and in me, and the things that I didn't believe in myself, the moments that I thought would never arrive. And I had it. And I did it for I had made it through 2 hours of my show. And I don't know if 5 people listened, or 5,000 or 5 million. I didn't even care at that point. I had gotten there, and they couldn't kick me out now. History was going to show that I was there. You know what I mean? Like I put my footprints on the moon that day. And if you don't ever have to get back, but I'm trying to get back all the time. Like that feeling, that's the thing that I always think about with my show, is like, man, it's an honor. You get to do this. People listen to what you're saying, so respect them. And that's the stuff that kind of gets you through on those days when you don't want to do it, is that when people tweet at you and say, man, I can't wait for you to give me something else. I can't wait to hear your opinion on this. I can't wait for your next conversation on this. Those are the times when you don't want to do it, and you realize that there are people who they're not trying to consume your content. They're trying to continue that relationship. And so that helps a lot when you worry about yourself, because I think it's only natural. I think it doesn't matter what you do. I think we all at some point wonder, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what I believe enough in myself to take it as it is? And what does success look like for me too? That thing is the realest conversation you got to have with yourself, is what does success in this mean to me? And what can I live with, and what can I live without?
Whew. Speaking of living without, or living with, Ross, you are in one of the most where you create content for a fan base that supports a team, and we are some of the most entertaining, toxic, crazy, determined, stubborn, loving group that you can really put together. Describe your relationship with New Orleans, and describe your relationship and some of the things you learned about not just New Orleans Saints fans, but New Orleans fans, period.
That's my family, man. Like it's that simple, right? They're not always the most well-behaved, I know that, but it's still my family, right? It's like going to the cookout and you got that one cousin that you're like, don't talk to them too much. You know what I mean? You won't be seen with them too much. No, I'm just playing. But that really is like I call like when I reference and I talk to, I make a very specific point to reference listeners individually that take the time to listen to my show. I know what your thing, like everything is specific to that individual. But when I do reference kind of the group or a collective of people that listen to the show that are Saints fans, I always use the word family. And that's not artificial. Like that is something that I never did until I started doing this show and everything. And I developed that relationship. And so I learned a lot about, New Orleans Saints fans. But again, like I grew up a New Orleans Saints fan. I grew up around New Orleans Saints fans. So I think also like being from the community is really important to me too, because I'm speaking to people the way that I speak to people in my immediate family about the team, or I get the real opportunity to be able to do that. And so I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I have been asked before, if you weren't able to cover the New Orleans Saints, if that wasn't an option, but you could cover any of the other 31 NFL teams, what team would you choose? And the only other team that makes sense to me is the Buffalo Bills, because that's the only other fan base that's as crazy as Saints fans. You know what I'm saying? And that's as excited about Saints fans. Like the thing that I love about Saints fans is that they care so much about who their starting quarterback is, but they care just as much who the second fullback is on the roster, who the third tight end is on the roster, who's the gunner opposite JT Gray. Like that's what I love. Like I love that so much that it's not just like it's not a situationship. It's a real relationship for New Orleans Saints fans and the organization. The other thing that I learned is that the connection between the organization and the community is unique, and it might be one of the most unique, if not the most unique, across sports. The trauma bonding that has happened between this organization and these fans, the fact that this organization was helped by its fans and the fans were aided by the organization in terms of hope and light and just sheer determination coming out of one of the most, the largest natural travesties that's ever happened in, our modern day era. Like that connection is so unique. And that's something that I absolutely love as well, because if I'm going to be able to get the opportunity to contribute time every single day to a fan base, I want to contribute it to a fan base that cares. I want to contribute it to a fan base that is going to have opinions, that's going to disagree, that's going to, just as much as they will agree, that has their own opinions, their own thoughts because of how well they know the team or the roster and things like that. Like I love all of that. So I think just that the unique nature of the connection is something that I learned over time while doing the show, but everything else came with like prior knowledge of just like, this is family. And I'm really excited to be able to spend, time every day with them.
Now, Grubb, you're a little different, because in my time of knowing you, I have seen you talk and cover about, and I'm going to miss a few here, but I'm going to try to name them here. I've seen high school sports, okay, basketball and football, if I'm correct.
Yes.
I've seen college baseball.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I think I've seen softball, but I'm going to keep going. Yes. I've seen professional basketball. Yes. I've seen professional football. I've seen that's all I have, but that's a
the
lot.
Big three.
That's a lot.
The big three.
The big three.
I did radio commentary for the I have covered lacrosse. I've covered field hockey. I've covered ice hockey. Like I did the full gauntlet when I came up. So that, I think the great thing about that in working in a local sports environment where you got to do everything and you were one man banding it a lot was that it gave me respect for every type of athlete. I've been to swim meets. I've been to, I've done it all. I've talked to every single type. I've talked to the minor leaguers who are trying to come up. And I've talked to minor leaguers who are trying to hang on. I've talked to pros, at the beginnings of their career at all these different levels. And I've talked to high schoolers who were supposed to be phenoms. And I've talked to kids who were just small town kids playing their hearts out, on a Friday. And that is a gift. You know what I'm saying? That allows you, just like waiting tables. I waited tables for a long time. And those teach you how to have different conversations with people, how to read people too. How to anticipate needs and wants in conversation and how they want to be addressed and how they need to be heard in that moment. So I learned a lot from those things. and doing that. But basketball is the passion. Basketball is the one that if you ask me, we could do we'll do basketball and I won't sleep. I'll like just let's talk about it. What do you what aspect? Whatever you want to talk about. We want to talk about plays. You want to talk about moments. You want to talk about players. You want to talk. I will do that all day long. But I love so many sports, and I can just enjoy. I think competition, the aspects of how you compete, how you get yourself up to compete, the things that you have to do physically and mentally, especially just at every level, whether it's a rookie or the guy now, Cam Jordan this year. Just think about that. Cam Jordan this year and the things that he's endured in conversation in his own life and just physically probably asking himself, how much do I have left in me? And the outward show that you see that Ross talks about too, that projection of I'm strong, I'm Cam Jordan. I got to be Cam Jordan. Every time these people see me, I have to be Cam Jordan. I have to have the mustache on fleek. I have to, I got to be clean. I got to talk my shit. I got to be Cam Jordan. But I guarantee when there are nights when he's lifting those weights, and those mornings that he's coming into the Saints facility and he's looking at a kid who's 4 or 5 years younger than him, who's running a little bit faster, who's got a little more reps up on the machine. Like those questions creep in. Do I have enough for 16 games? And that part of it is just it. If that ever stops being interesting to me, like that's why I know that I can do this forever, is because humanity and understanding how people do what they do, that never gets boring. Never.
And leading into that with you having as just a wide spectrum of things in which you've covered, especially in the Louisiana region. I mean, that you see people from all different walks of life that all, for the most part are from a similar space. What's your connection like with, New Orleans, Louisiana? Like, how unique is it to you? Because I mean, God, you were on, ESPN doing several Tulane games. You were involved in that, for the basketball team as well. Like, what's your connection like as a whole with the region?
It's a little bit different because I wasn't born in New Orleans.
Right.
So I brought and neither of my parents were born in New Orleans. So you bring a different view to everything. Even when you grow up in it, the influences are not the same because your parents are adapting to the culture just like you are. My brother and sister are born, New Orleanians, so they see the city completely different than I do. Because I always compared it to, and even though I moved to New Orleans when I was very young, I have feelings for Detroit, like where I was born. I have my first bonds, my first baseball game, my first football, all those things happened in Michigan. So coming to Louisiana, it was a much different vibe because New Orleanians, what I learned very quickly, do not, that outsider thing that look coming up in the late 70s and the 80s and realizing that when people asked you and my parents figuring this out, like what school you went to, this was not your college. It was what high school you went to so people could know what neighborhood you were from and know who your people were. And, and me being a light-skinned kid and people asking me constantly who my people were because I looked like somebody they knew. And I'm like, I don't have any other relatives here. You know what I mean? So New Orleans, to that part, I had to figure out my way into it and into the culture because it was not native to me. And I wasn't also an adult. Like you see transplants who come in and they want to immerse themselves in it in a completely different way. Again, I was a kid growing up in it. So my influences for it as a sports fan was like the year we moved to New Orleans, the first season that I remember of the Saints is 1-15. That's what I remember. You know what I'm saying? Like I have clear memories of the Dome. So my perspective is different because I have clear memories of when it was hard to fill the Dome. I have clear memories when that was not the greatest home field advantage in the NFL. I watched a lot of really bad Alabama quarterbacks take stand under center in those gold pants. I've seen it. You know what I mean? Those white pants. I watched a lot of coaches get fired. So my perspective was just different than what I feel like the majority of Saints fans now are coming in from that late 90s period. So it's a whole different, my perspective is just different. But as far as basketball goes, that was always a part of the New Orleans culture that I immersed myself in as soon as I could. Like I knew about the games that were played at the barn. I knew about the summer leagues that actually New Orleans used to have pro-ams in the summer. New Orleans was a real basketball city. And I would go to the park and play, and I go, and I knew who guys were, and I knew who all there was a time when it was nothing but McDonald's All-American after McDonald's All-American. So to me, the conversation about New Orleans not being a basketball city never made sense. It just never made sense. And it was my passion. So I knew that given the opportunity, I was going to talk up New Orleans basketball. I wasn't going to talk up the team as much because that's not my job. I don't work for the Pelicans. But I'm going to talk up basketball. We're going to talk up basketball. And I want to be around a community of people that if you don't love basketball, I'm going to help you understand why you should or you could. And if you do, I'm going to give you more reasons, I hope, to love the game, because I hope I add to how you view it and how you receive it.
Well, guys, y'all add to how I view it all. So, I mean, one of the reasons this was important to me, to start, is because and even with Maddie, like I like I like the way you guys like approach things, and it's all it's all different, right? Anytime something beyond sports comes out, right around the time when people want to tell you, I don't want to hear that from you, I just want to hear what's next with the Saints, right? Stuff off the field. You guys all find ways to address it and address it in a way that's unique to you, whether it's popular or not. And Maddie, I mean, man, yeah. I gotta get Maddie on here. When Maddie is going, you gonna feel every word, and it doesn't matter how long it has to be. She's gonna apologize for the length of what she has to say. It may not be vocal. She may have to write it down and post it, but and she's gonna do her research. So but end of the day, man, I really appreciate y'all, and to me, I remember when I first started, and y'all were two of the people that were, I was inspired by, and I think that there's a lot of people. I'm here to remind y'all how many people look at you guys and are inspired by what you do. Ross, when you walk in training camps, people are just gonna be like, "Oh shit, that's Ross Jackson." You know what I'm saying? Like when we went to, and I told, and it's funny, but that's the truth though. When I I told Grubb, like when we went to the Pelicans Chalk Talk, I had a couple people walk up to me like, "Oh, is that David Grubb?" I'm like, "Yeah, go say hello." I'm like,
yeah.
People see you as something way bigger than just a person, right? The people that have been watching you, listening to you, depending on you for quite some time now, man. So I think the giving of that flowers or giving up those flowers, man, is important. And, I mean, and, me and Grubb talk all the time, but Ross, I'm happy that you were willing to to be a part of this here, man.
Oh yeah. I added something to the end of my show not too long ago to where I always give a little nod to, like, if you see me, say hi. That's my phrase and everything. And every time that somebody is kind enough to do it, and that's the way I truly believe it that way too, that people that stop me, people that say, "Hey, are you?" or "Hey, love your podcast," whatever, like people that take the time to do that, I think that is a show of kindness. I don't find that as a bother. I think that is a show of kindness. And I thank them every single time by saying, "Thank you for changing my life." Because they did. Grubb changed my life. Chris, you have changed my life. Like everybody that has taken the time to support and has been in a situation or had the opportunity to either say yes or no to me and has said yes, they have changed my life. And everybody has said yes to different varying degrees, right? Sometimes it's about, it's yes, like here's an opportunity, here's a job. Sometimes it's yes, here's a weekly spot that you and I get to do together. We're going to brand it. We're going to make it our own. And we're going to be brothers from here on out. And sometimes it's yes by clicking on the thing, clicking on the episode or clicking on a YouTube video or whatever. Like that's somebody saying yes. And every time that somebody has said yes in whatever varying degree and whatever ability they have to say yes, it's changed my life. And so I always try to thank people for that, because it doesn't escape me that, like, I hope that people see this and go, I want to do that. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel. I'm going to start my own podcast. I want to talk in front of a microphone. And I hope that they thrive every damn day that they do it. Like Grubb and I always talk about, like, we want to see everybody eat.
Yeah.
We want to see everybody eat.
And I'll say this. Every person that genuinely has come to me and said, I respect what you do. They more times than not, especially when it's a peer like in the industry, that does it. More times than not, I'm in awe that I'm meeting them.
100%.
Or I'm in awe that saying that they've invited me. Like, when somebody thanks me for being on their show or whatever or something, I'm like, you came to me. Like I didn't ask, what I mean? Like, you came to me, and that's humbling to me. But this is when, and I don't view myself as like, but it was really cool. My daughter came back from the mall shopping. I wasn't with her. She comes back and she says, I was in a store and a guy came, I was buying something, and the guy behind the register said, are you David Grubb's daughter? And she said, yeah, how do you know? And she said, I know him from sports. And this is my daughter, and everybody knows. Look, my daughter's done a lot of things with me, because she's my ace. But for somebody they didn't have to tell her,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, they don't know if it's going to get back to me or not. She's 14. Stuff goes in one ear, out the other. It made her day, and then it made mine, because that part of it, I get emotional about it, because I just think about what we've all been through, man, and the positive things, that tightening, how me and Ross knew our chemistry was instant. How Chris, when we had our first DM conversation, when we were out of the group, because we met in a group chat, and then you hit me up in a DM, and we started chatting with each other, and it was like, okay, yeah, I hear where you're coming from. The same thing with like Trevor, or the same thing with, when Carly was with us, man. When Carly was with us, like Carly and I, like, I still keep all the IGs that I have from her, because there were times she was like, she'd send me one and be like, best in the business, David Grubb. And I know she doesn't mean that 100%. There's a lot of people who are as talented as me, but she's letting me know as my friend in that moment, she's supporting me. And, like, she would send me screenshots. I watched you. Same with, and we do the same for each other. Like, anything Ross puts out, if he says I'm on this, I've listened to it. When you're on something, I've listened to it. With Maddie, when she's on, if I can, and if she's on ESPN, I'll listen to it. And I think that's when, like, whenever those folks come in, when Maddie came in and joined us, when we had her on for that first episode, again, it was easy. It was so easy. And like, the one thing about Maddie that I think Ross and I both tried to tell her to stop doing is apologizing for being herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that comes from being a woman in this industry, because she feels like sometimes if she gets branded, and as Black men, we certainly know that being an opinionated, loud Black person can get you into some difficult spots.
It ain't getting you jobs.
Right. So, but we tell her all the time, it's like, Maddie, you don't have to apologize to us. You don't have to apologize to your audience, because the reason people listen to you is because you're being honest. And I think that's why she came in, and look, she's the third member of the patrol, and it fit, and it's just, and like that first experience when Ross got to meet her, when I got to meet her for the first time, when I got to all of us, it's joyful. It was a joyful experience, and me and Ross waiting, because we've had these times to finally do it in person. But this week we're going to finally, like next weekend, hopefully we finally get to do it in person. But it's been a joy, man. It's like, I don't want to do this for free. I don't want to do this for free. But when people talk about I've worked harder than the money that I've gotten out of this, and because of the relationships and because of the people like you two.
Man, I really appreciate that, man. And, you guys have made this first episode worthwhile for me, man. So I definitely appreciate it, as I was trying to figure out how this was going to go. But thank you guys again. I got a Vegas flight to catch here very shortly, so I'm gonna get out of here and get into the Summer League madness. But Grubb, Ross, tell everybody where they can follow you at. I mean, I see it on the screen, but for those that are audio listeners only, tell them where to find you at, what you got coming up next, and yeah, Ross.
All right, dope. I was like nodding at.
Oh, Ross is frozen. Ross is frozen, so I'll do it while he's frozen. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Grubb, and hit me on the website hitpwithdg.com. August 1st. Keep in mind August 1st as the date. We're gonna be doing a big relaunch and doing some things, but there will be some episodes.
Grubb, like you go ahead, homie. Easy.
I'm done. You got it. You froze, so we can let you go now. You got it.
Every time,
I think I did it.
Sure.
You
were frozen. So I went while you were frozen.
Yes,
so
good. That worked out. I appreciate y'all. Hey, easy way to find me, Locked On Saints, wherever you get podcasts, YouTube, all of that. Saints Wire, USA Today, and of course you can find all of it together at Ross Jackson Nola NOLA on Twitter. Appreciate you, man. And hey, Chris, glad you're doing this, man. Glad you're in the space, bro. And take up space while you're here. All right.
Yep. I'm tell you. I'm gonna tell you the first time you asked about this. What did I tell you?
I mean, we talked about just recording, man.
Just do it.
I mean, just do it one way or another. I was gonna fight it. And I delayed it as long as I could. I was like, man, let me just dive in and get it right.
You belong here.
Just do it.
Appreciate it, y'all. Well, that's the first episode of In Space. Boo Crew Media, DraftKings. Until next time, appreciate y'all.